I thought about not even talking about this because if I do, I know what route I'm going to go down. And it's not going to be good. Okay.
You know what though? I think that a lot of people are going to agree with you with that.
Yeah.
And that's I have two different versions in my head, right? It's yeses and nos. My no's is this is why, and my yes is this is why. So we're probably on the same page.
Yeah. So there's two different topics within this one. Okay. There's the Supreme Court ruling that specifically didn't look at the veterans cases. Okay. It was looking at the Court of Appeals and their review process whenever a veterans claim goes from the Board of Appeals to the Court of Appeals. Okay. Long story short, they said no. And I'm sure I'm going to punt that one to you for a further explanation. What I want to start with first is my opinion on whether or not the veterans cases were good. Okay. So what I mean by that is, first off, there's two veterans there. I'm going to focus on the one who claimed PTSD due to their wife, which I think personally is insane. Now, what I'm actually doing right now, I did a poll and I haven't looked at it yet. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay, there we go. I pulled it up. Let me go ahead and share my screen. This was not the plan. It just kind of happened this way. So here it is. Boom. Here's the poll. Okay. So is this a legitimate claim? Let me zoom in here. It says veteran is in the Air Force. That part matters to me. Okay. Wife says she will kill herself if husband stays in the Air Force. Veteran develops PTSD due to wife's statement and circumstances. Veteran submits PTSD claim. 37% said yes, absolutely. And 63% said, what? No way, Jose. Obviously, I put the options in there for no way, Jose. And this is what it boils down to. One, I think this veteran's case. The other one was an increased case. I don't know about that one. This case specifically, I can't think of a worse case to bring to the Supreme Court. All those are so to be clear, the court wasn't looking at this veteran's case specifically. It was about essentially the adjudication process of the Court of Appeals of the lower court. Okay. But dude, let's just be real here, Jason. And I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. No, absolutely not, dude. This wife needs to take care of that issue. Okay. And if the veteran, if the Air Force service member wants to stay in, that's going to come with repercussions. Okay. Divorce rates are super high in the military for that exact reason. Is that the question is that a reason to claim PTSD due to your wife and you re-enlisting or deploying? And two, is that a valid reason to be connected to military service? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say no every single day. We make decisions, you decide to serve. That comes with sacrifice. That's the whole point of service. Okay. People say thank you for your service because they understand it's sacrifice. Whether you deploy to Afghan, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, or you are unaccompanied orders for 3 years in Japan. Okay. Both of those suck and they're going to have consequences. One's combat related. One is you're missing your children grow up for 3 years. And trust me, PTSD, depression, anxiety, they're rated same by the VA. I get it. I've done both types of deployments. Okay. I've been to Afghan, Syria, Iraq, and Somalia, and I've been in Japan twice. And both of those, they're different kinds of sucks, but they both sucked. Okay. But
were you at Schwab?
I was at Schwab for one of them.
Okay. So that does suck. All right. That's about, isn't that the worst place?
Yeah. God. Schwab sucked. And then I was at the 31st MU, which was arguably worse, but
nice.
And then I have some other deployments before that, but I'm gonna say no, man. I don't know if that's harsh. I don't know what message that's to send to veterans, But in my opinion, should a veteran claim PTSD or any mental health claim because their wife is a nutbag? I don't think so. I genuinely do not think so. I know I'm going to catch heat for that. I don't care. I'm dying on the hill. Jason,
Right.
what
So I'll play
opinion?
I'll play devil's
I
advocate
don't
for
know.
you.
Take some heat off me.
Right. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with the other 30%. And the only reason why here, first though, I'll preface it with this. Yes, I think that the attorneys who found out about these cases and decided to push it, I think they probably could have found probably some better examples to
Literally
use.
anyone else.
I mean, this is like, wow, really? It's a hard one. But to play devil's advocate, we're not really disagreeing that he has PTSD from that situation, right? I mean, look, PTSD is not a combat exclusive situation, right? It could be a family environment. It could be anything, right? It's a traumatic stress disorder, right? So if he has it, well, then the question is okay, well, if he was active duty, it's kind of like saying, well, hey, look, you were on the weekend. You decided to drive very far away and go somewhere, and you got in a car accident. That's don't make stupid decisions. That shouldn't be claimed because you ripped your leg off in a car accident while you were on active duty, but it was the weekend and you were off, right? I can't control what you do on the weekend. I can't control who you're married to or what life is like in your house. It's kind of under that same umbrella because we all know, I think, or I would hope, that if you do get in a car accident on the weekend or you're playing basketball in the gym before you go in or after you got off of your shift and you hurt yourself, well, you're covered because you signed the dotted line that said, you know what, I will do what's asked. And in the event that, something goes awry, I'm going to be covered. And, I'm willing to put those risks out there. And the VA and the military are willing to compensate me if I have an issue along the way. So, I mean, if you have PTSD and you got it while you were in service, it doesn't have to be because your staff sergeant was smoking you in the back, right? It could be from anything. So I don't know. I think that there could be a there, maybe based on the rules, right? Do I feel like I would be a little bit embarrassed, right? There's that piece, right? Like how many of us go, you know what? I'm not going to file for that, right? I'm going to rub some dirt on it and move forward. And that's kind of the mindset we're trying to get away from is like, look, if you have a legitimate issue, you should be filing for that. Okay, so that was my devil's advocate point to try to stick up on the other side. Now, again, I think with this court case, sure, they should have used better. They could have found somebody better. That one's a very rough one. The other one was asking for an increase to go from 50% to whatever. I'm assuming he was trying to get 70 because he said he couldn't hold a job. And for anybody that understands the mental health claims, there is the total social and economic inadaptability aspect currently in the schedule of ratings for the 100% designation for mental health. So he was referencing the fact he couldn't hold a job and what have you, and he's currently 50%. So I'm assuming he's trying to get to 100. He didn't. This is all surrounding the benefit of the doubt rule. For those of you that aren't aware that this rule is even out there, the best example that I can give you is if you've watched our videos, either on this channel or our own personal channels, the CivDiv and Veterans Info Tap, or any other of the substantial channels out there with people that know what's going on, you're going to hear the term, and I think you actually have a shirt, Clay, at least as likely as not.
It's somewhere. Oh, it's right here. Hold on. This was not planned at all. It just happened to be behind me.
That's so funny. So at least as likely as not. So you hear that term. What that term is referencing is the benefit of the doubt rule. It's a coin flip. If the evidence is in equipoise, at least as likely as not, if it's 50-50 or close to, the VA is supposed to rule in your favor. So what both of these cases were saying is they felt as though the evidence was equal, at least equal, and they should be compensated based on that benefit of the doubt ruling. Now, this court case with the Supreme Court, one thing I want to point out, Clay, is that the Supreme Court took this case on, which that in itself is a huge deal. There's a bunch of cases submitted for the Supreme Court all the time, and the Supreme Court picks which ones they're going to take. So the Supreme Court took this case on, so that was a big deal in itself. The second piece here is that the case is not about the VA implementing the benefit of the doubt rule. Right. It's not about a higher level reviewer realizing the benefit of the doubt rule. It's not about a supplemental claim person figuring out the benefit of the doubt rule. It's not about the Board of Veterans Appeals figuring out the benefit of the doubt rule. What it is it's really focused in on the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, which is the next step beyond the Board of Veterans Appeals, and really focused in on that court and having them review all of the evidence and decide whether or not the benefit of the doubt rule was implemented. In that aspect, I absolutely disagree with the Supreme Court's decision. And the reason why is because the VA does not get it right. That's why we have the Board of Veterans Appeals. Who's to say? So what we're saying here by saying, if by agreeing with the court's decision, what we're saying is that the VA gets the benefit of the doubt rule correct. They get it correct. So therefore, we need no safety net backstops because they always get that part right. It's all the other things they mess up on. So that's why I disagree with the ruling, because I believe that if it reaches from disagreement to appeal with the BVA to appeal to the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, that court, the Veterans Court, should absolutely review every single piece of evidence and look at everything, top to bottom, sideways, all that stuff, and determine whether or not that claim should have been awarded in any fashion, and they should be responsible for that as a safety net for veterans, for all the other people who potentially could have gotten it wrong. I believe that should actually go down to the BVA as well, to be honest. But there's a quote here from the two dissenting justices, which is Brown Jackson and Gorsuch. Both of them dissented on this. And the quotation here, or the statement essentially, is that the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, also known as the Veterans Court, will continue rubber stamping denials of VA claims instead of delving into the evidence. I think that that's an issue. I think that it sends the wrong message to the BVA. I think it sends the wrong message to the VA that the benefit of the doubt rule is, sure. Yeah, you shouldn't have to think about it. You shouldn't have your feelings involved in it. You shouldn't go, well, dude, really, you should have probably got a stronger wife. It should just be, you got PTSD, you got it while you were in. This person says you have it. And, it doesn't have to be the military caused it. It happened while you were in. What happens if all of a sudden you got a thyroid condition that really jacked you up and it started messing with your hormones and you started getting very depressed? You get service connected for that. So anyway, back to you, Clay.
Yeah, it's I'm glad you brought that up, and I kind of want to summarize what the Supreme Court really looked at. It wasn't necessarily the cases, it was just the process of the Veterans Courts. So, and you said it perfectly when you said the Veterans Court should look at everything. Well, they don't. They only look at the piece that's being appealed and the reason it was appealed in the first place versus looking at all the evidence. And the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the lower court not looking at all the evidence. However, in my opinion, if I'm a justice, which is I can't even compare myself to a justice. That's just insane to say. But let's just say I am. I can't even. I'm not even eligible for jury duty. Okay.
Oh, where the world has gone.
Yeah. Let's just think if they did rule in favor of the veterans here, and what impacts that would have. One, I think that would absolutely change the landscape of At Least As Likely As Not. And then I think the opposite would be true, where the VA would rubber stamp any evidence in not necessarily equipoise, but close to. Okay, so things we don't know is the evidence of the veteran's case, and I'm specifically honing in on the wife here. We don't know that. We don't know his diagnosis, but we're going to assume he was clinically diagnosed. We don't know what one DBQ provider said or the other DBQ provider said. One could have been a contracted CMP exam. One could have been a private. Okay. We don't know that, but let's just assume it's 50-50. If the SCOTUS ruled in favor, I think that would have I'm not going to say objectively wrong because I said I think it would have been the wrong decision because the decision was 7-2. Okay, so the majority, and these are both judges, okay, on both sides were appointed by both parties, right? So you have a very
bipartisan thought.
When it comes
well, they're
to
not supposed to be
justice,
political, but yeah,
exactly. In a perfect world, like the bipartisan shouldn't even be said when referring to the justices, but it's interpreted that way, okay? So I think the Supreme Court got it right. And I'm saying that not as a lawyer. I would love to hear like the National Organization of Veteran Advocates, which are lawyers and claims agents. I would love to see what they say about the decision. But I do think they made the right decision because I'm trying to say it not in a mean way, but no, you should not be service connected because your spouse said they were going to kill themselves if you re-enlisted or deployed. That's just wild to me. It's just, I can't. There's no bone in me that says that's a valid reason for service connection. It's a valid reason for you and your spouse to go to counseling. It's a valid reason for your spouse to get on treatment. Okay. It's a valid reason for you to consider not to re-enlist or get a hardship discharge, which happens all the time. Okay. Those are all valid reasons. However, I don't think it's valid for service connection. That's my opinion. I hope I don't catch too much flack for that. Those are my last thoughts. I think the decision was correct. I think the veterans cases were absolutely dog water. Just
right.
I can't think of a worse case to present.
Right.
And there are legitimate.
Yes.
The VA doesn't get it right. Okay. If they did, HLRs would not exist and the market for claims attorneys would not exist. Okay. And that's a huge market. The VA objectively does not get it right. The Board of Veteran Appeals does not get it right.